All right, ready? Here we go. Picture, if you will, a lonely cottage in the midst of the densely wooded forest just outside of Lizard Lick, Alabama. As we look in on our heroine, Little Nell, we see her walking around the room, wringing her hands in great agony of soul. She knows that the mortgage on her granny's little cottage is due, and that Dirty Dan is coming to cast them out into the cold December night because they cannot pay. She sits down in the old rocking chair by the fireplace, and Daisy, her faithful dog, seeming to realize her deep despair, comes over to her and licks her hand. She tries to comfort it, though Daisy's tongue is rather gooey. She's a true friend. Soon, Daisy jumps up into Little Nell's lap, and this surprises Little Nell. It surprises her so that she says, "Oh! To give her further encouragement, so she begins licking Little Nell's ear. It tickles Nell, so that she begins laughing and soon tells Daisy to get down. Right on licking Little Nell. So she slaps Daisy right on the top of her head. Daisy then gets down and lies on the floor beside the rocking chair. Suddenly, there is heard the fierce knocking of Dirty Dan upon the door. Knock, 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 knock. Little Nell jumps up from her chair with mouth wide open. She is so terrified that her mouth stays open for the rest of the evening. Close her mouth. Dirty Dan flings the door open, springs into the room, and points a finger at Little Nell. He says to her, "Pay me the rent or leave." "Pay me the rent or leave." No, her mouth still wide open. Resist, Dirty Dan. Grabs her, throws her over his shoulder, and attempts to carry her out in a literal eviction. Decides it's time to act, so she rushes up to Dirty Dan right in front of him and barks. Dirty Dan starts to walk around Daisy, so she bites him on the ankle. Oh, gosh. And hops around on one foot, holding the ankle. Oh, my foot! My foot! Oh, my foot! Okay, you guys haven't entered the cottage yet. No, you can. Suddenly, in comes Nell's tottery old granny. She is startled at the scene. She tells Dirty Dan, "I can't pay and I won't be." At this, Dirty Dan grabs Granny by the neck. He drags her kicking and screaming, saying, "I'm taking you to jail. I'm taking you to jail." Daisy barks as they leave. Kicks the door shut with her hind paws. Go to jail. Just go to jail.
Oh, we're going to jail.
Right. She kicks the door shut with her hind paws. Daisy does.
Oh, go ahead,
Poor Little Nell. She's left again, wringing her hands in despair with her mouth wide open. She sits down in the old rocking chair. Daisy tries to cheer her by doing the tricks that Nell taught her. First, Daisy sits up with her tongue hanging out, panting. Then she rolls over. This gets a smile from Little Nell. So Daisy rolls over again. She does it over and over very rapidly 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When Daisy finally does get up on all fours, she is so dizzy that she walks sideways and falls down. But she still tries to cheer Nell up. So she runs over and unties Little Nell's shoe with her mouth and pulls it off. With the shoe over to the side of the room, and by flipping her head sideways, throws the shoe back to Little Nell. Suddenly, Little Nell sits up straight. She hears outside the whistling of her lover, Sylvester Armstrong. Hooray! She jumps up from her chair just as the door swings open, and Sylvester into the room. They fall into each other's arms in a loving embrace. Sylvester. You have that breath. At this, little Nell sinks into the chair crying, still with her mouth open. Dirty Dan rushes into the room. Daisy growls, and she scratches her ear with her hind foot. Then she growls again and bares her teeth to Dirty Dan. Dan says to little Nell, "Now I'll take you to jail also."
I'll take you to jail.
He grabs her by the arm and tries to pull her out the door. But Sylvester Armstrong rushes in front of the villain and says, "Stop." Sylvester stands there with his arms folded and his head high, his chest is puffed out with pride. He's been on weight for 2 years now. Sylvester flexes his muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can provide that. Sylvester says, "Unhand that girl."
Unhand that girl, like you did.
And rushes within his case, pulls out a dagger, and stabs Sylvester in the chest. Sylvester falls to the floor. Little Nell screams loudly for 5 seconds. Dan picks her up and carries her off on his shoulders. On your shoulders. She's still screaming as they go out the door. Daisy walks over to the door. He looks out for a while. Then she once again scratches her ear with her hind foot. She goes over to the rocking chair, jumps up into it, and presently falls asleep. The moral of the story, a dog's life isn't so bad after all.